Good morning and welcome to Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living. Come on in and take your seats. I'm Reverend Mary Marie Shelton. I'm the community spiritual leader here. Delighted to welcome you. We are a spiritual community that is dedicated to creating a world that works for everyone through the process of commitment and community and spiritual growth and love and connection and integrity. So wherever you are on your pathway of faith, you're welcome here. And this is true for those of you that are joining us online this morning also. So the way that we begin on Sunday is to just take a moment to say hi to each other. So introduce yourselves to people that you don't know, welcome others back that you haven't seen in a while, and just say hi and move around a little bit. We'll take a few minutes to say hello to each other. And those of you online, please welcome yourselves and anybody that you're with. Take a moment to appreciate your opportunity to be here with us and to be here with yourself or whoever you might be with. And we'll be right back to sing in just a minute. Good morning. Good morning. Nice to see you. I am. Come back and have a seat. We have Reverend Christy Snow with us this morning. I mean, not with us physically, of course. We've got her videos because she's in North Carolina, but she sent us some great videos for music this morning. And the songs, opening and closing, are both songs that we don't know, but they're also easy to sing to, so you'll see the lyrics on the screen. I want to tell you a little bit about Christy. She's a singer-songwriter, well known in North Carolina. She's an ordained Science of Mind minister. She founded the Carolina Center for Spiritual Awakening in Charlotte, North Carolina, and she travels nationally and internationally, sharing her music, and as a guest speaker, retreat facilitator. Maybe we'll get her all the way over here sometime, but you can find out more about her and her music on christysnow.com. That's her website. So this is our opening song. I'm going to invite you to stand with us and get ready to sing. And as soon as you get the general idea, just sing out. The more confident you are, the easier.
Good morning, Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living. Christy Snow here. So happy to be with you this morning. Show up and be loved. Be the smile you're dreaming of. We're here to give and receive love. Won't you show up and be loved? Be that heart you're dreaming of. We are here to be loved. Whoever you are, wherever you're from, you are. Oh, you're welcome here. Whoever you are, wherever you're from, you are loved and wanted here. So show up and be loved. Be the smile you're dreaming of. We're here to give and receive love. Won't you show up and be loved? Be that heart you're dreaming of. We are here to be loved. Many rivers, just one well. All unique expressions of life. When it's silenced, I'll be your voice. I will stand beside you for what's right. So show up and be loved. Be the smile you're dreaming of. We're here to give and receive love. Won't you show up and be loved? Be that heart you're dreaming of. We are here to be loved. We are here to be loved.
Yay. Very nice, everybody. Well done. You may be seated. Now, this is the time that we get ready to move into the internal preparation part of the service. So I'm going to invite you to silence your cell phone so that if it vibrates, you'll be the only one who knows. And if you jump, we'll know why. But hopefully the rest of us won't jump. And we're going to have an opening prayer now by our morning prayer practitioner, Suzanne Dubois. So come on up, Suzanne. Can I see? If there's no light on, then it's not on. There you go.
Our minister has magic fingers. Okay. Where you are right now in your seat, remember and embrace the spirit of love, that which is all there is. And remember that you are a part of that. And think of the person next to you and know that they too reach your energy of love out to that person, knowing that we are all one with spirit, and keep extending that knowledge of the presence out into the outdoors, knowing that every creature, every blade of grass, the sky and the sun are all part of the presence of God, and knowing that we are all part of this love. We know that today is perfect and that we are all one with spirit. And knowing this, we embrace the words of Reverend Mary this morning, and the music, and everything else, the fellowship that is part of today. We welcome it and embrace it and know that we are one with it. And I am so grateful. With every breath I take, every thought I have, every movement I make is one of gratitude for the joy and the beauty and the love of spirit. And so as I release my word into the law of mind, knowing that this is manifest right now, right here for us to have and embrace as we wish, I let it go and say, it is done and done. Amen and namaste.
And so it is. Thank you, Suzanne.
I am safe now. I am fine. I am fine. I was so afraid that if just once I slowed down, the world would come crashing to my feet. To keep it all afloat and keep the balls up in the air, but beside I just couldn't see. Now to lay this all to rest, in peace to invest, and let the pieces fall where they may. 'Cause I am safe inside myself, looking out to no one else, for the answers only I can testify. Safe inside myself, for the first time I have felt that alone or not, I will be alright. I'll be fine. I'll be fine. I'll be alright. It took 30 years to see the little girl behind the tears, but now I reach out for her hand and she takes mine. Now I am complete, I am where I'm supposed to be. I have and am enough, yeah, I'm alright. Sometimes I sing these words to convince myself. I'm told to first pretend until I believe that I am fine. I am fine. I am alright. And I am safe inside myself, looking now to no one else, for the answers only I can testify. Safe inside myself, for the first time I have felt that alone or not, I will be alright. I'll be fine. I'll be fine. I'll be alright. I cannot be all things to everyone, and what's more, I don't wanna be, no, not perfect in every test, but enough nonetheless. If for no one else, for me. And I am safe inside myself, looking now to no one else, for the answers only I can testify. Safe inside myself, for the first time I have felt that alone or not, I will be alright. I'll be fine. I'll be fine. I'll be alright. I am fine. I am fine. I am alright. I am fine. You are fine. We are alright.
This has been an interesting month because we've been talking about the body temple. And usually, when we're talking about the science of mind, we're talking about our attitudes, our thoughts, our beliefs. And we don't talk as much about the body, except as the manifestation of divine presence everywhere throughout the universe, including as and in all of us. But then we kind of leave it at that, like the body of our affairs, our physical bodies, and what we want to tend to is our consciousness. And that's true. However, the body has an impact on our consciousness, just like our consciousness has an impact on our body. You know what I mean? Yes? So as we're looking at the sacred body temple, today we're talking about the idea that the body remembers. Now, how many of you in here have learned how to do something? Anything. roller skating, riding a bike, driving a car, anything. If you learned how to do something, you've learned how to dance, you've learned a sport. And that is due to the fact that the body remembers. The brain actually is there to support us in learning and developing and creating sort of what your computer would think of as a script, something that it knows when you do this, then all these things should follow automatically. And so when we develop a habit, that's what the brain does for us. The neurons that have been firing in that particular pathway have done so enough times that they form a new geographic line in the brain. And it's easier to do that thing, or think that thought, or take that action. Sometimes, however, what happens is not based on repetition that causes the body to remember, but it's based on something else. So, 3 elderly sisters in their 90s are living together in a lovely house, and Sadie decides she's going to go upstairs and change into something more comfortable. So she disappears up the stairs, and Rose and Marie are waiting. No Sadie. So finally, Rose says, well, I'm going to go upstairs and see if she's okay. And Rose disappears. And time passes. And Marie is sitting there. No Sadie. No Rose. She finally thinks, well, I better go find out what's going on. So she starts up the stairs, and she finds Rose standing on the landing. She says, what are you doing here? I thought you were going to go find out how Sadie was. And Rose said, well, I couldn't remember if I was going up or coming down. So Marie shakes her head. She goes on upstairs to the bedroom, and she goes in and she finds Sadie sitting half-dressed on the edge of the bed. She says, are you all right? And Sadie says, oh, darn, I can't remember if I was putting this dress on or taking it off. And Marie just shakes her head, and she says, you two and your memories, knock on wood. Was that the front door or the back door? So memory is sometimes affected by, life processes, right? And one of the things that also affects memory is trauma. It could be war. It could be a natural disaster. It could be a physical illness. It could be a profound loss. It could be some kind of aggression toward us, some physical or sexual or verbal or emotional abuse or aggression that will make such an impact that sometimes, even if it only happens once, it is like a little implosion in the brain. And what happens then is when anything that is remotely similar to that occurs, everything in the body goes on alert as if we're in that situation again. For example, sometimes for soldiers, they have flashbacks of those experiences in war because they're so vivid and so impactful that the mind has recorded them. Are you with me here? Memory is such an odd and interesting thing that we all possess as human beings. And it's not just us. Our cats and dogs, they learn things, they remember things, they know what works. If the cat comes and walks on you in the morning until you get up, and you always get up and feed the cat, that becomes the way in which that's done. And the cat does not have to remember that with effort. It happens automatically, right? So, some folks have a typical memory that we can recall things that are important to us, and also there are certain sensory triggers. So you might smell baking cookies, and it reminds you of something at your mother's or grandmother's home. You might smell fresh cut grass and think about when you were a kid. You might hear a piece of music you haven't heard in a long time that has some kind of an impact on you. And we've talked about that throughout this month. So you remember those things, yes? We've talked about that, our average memory, and the importance of memory in our being able to learn and also to discover and experience beauty and wonder in the world, because we have to have something to compare it to in order to appreciate it as something amazing or outstandingly beautiful. So that's typically what we're used to with memory, but some people, it's rare, but some people have a photographic memory, or what's called an eidetic memory. Usually, people with that kind of memory either have done a lot of work to develop a memory like that, or they have some kind of brain anomaly that leaves them with that ability to remember. Temple Grandin is an autistic savant, is what they call her. She's brilliant, but she also can remember in detail every moment of her life. She thinks it's odd that we can't. She says, my mind works like Google Images. She thinks in pictures. Now, the other interesting thing about eidetic memory is that somebody with an eidetic memory is able to capture an image after a short exposure such that even after the object is removed, they can have the experience of actually still seeing it. And even more so, they can look at something, remember it later, and when they remember it later, exactly as it was, they notice details they missed the first time. It's almost like they have, some kind of an exact video camera recording device in their heads. And so when we think of that kind of memory, we would like to believe that our memories work that way too, that what we do remember, we recall like a snapshot or a slideshow or a video where we remember it exactly as it was. I've told the story before about my mother and her older sister having a conversation about something that happened in their childhood and disagreeing about it. And I said to my mother later, isn't it interesting how siblings can disagree about things they experienced at the same time and place? And my mother said, oh, she remembers things that never even happened. So it's always interesting to me how our memories vary in that way. But one of the things that's interesting to know, too, is that we don't necessarily recall exactly what we saw or heard. One of the things about it is that we can experience something, and then when we remember it later, the circumstances in which we are remembering it can affect how we remember it the next time. So for example, if we remember something while we're sitting someplace that's very hot, like we're in a hot room or we're in a hot environment somewhere or something, the next time we think about that memory, we may imagine we remember it being when it was hot, not because it was hot originally, but because the last time we thought of it, it was hot. So our memories adapt themselves as we remember them. They even alter themselves as they go along. And so we're not necessarily remembering what we thought we were. Elizabeth Loftus, who worked at the University of Washington when I was a student there, she discovered something about eyewitnesses that has not been very popular with prosecutors. And she has testified in favor of some kind of odious people around eyewitness testimony, which makes her not always very popular. But she makes a case that, and she did this with a series of experiments, that, for example, with an eyewitness, the way in which they describe what they remember can be altered by the way they're questioned after the fact. So her first experiment, she had 45 students who saw videos of car crashes and then asked the students to estimate the speed of the car that was in the crash. And her findings were that the mean estimates of the speeds were 32 miles an hour when the question was phrased as that the cars had collided, 34 miles per hour when the question was phrased as hit each other, and 41 miles per hour when the question was phrased as smashed into each other. So she concluded that the results are consistent with the view that the questions asked, the way they're worded subsequent to an event, can cause a reconstruction in someone's memory of the event. One of the ones I remember her staging was there was a group of people standing outside one of the buildings at the university, and she had set this up in advance, where a guy ran through and stole somebody's bag or purse or something and took off, and one of the guys ran after him and tackled him to the ground, and a bunch of stuff happened and blah, blah, blah. And they asked later for the people who witnessed it to identify the perpetrator, the guy who had stolen the thing. And the majority of them identified the guy who tackled him, not the guy who actually stole the bag, because that was what lodged in their memories. So the process then depends on what becomes most important to us, and we can mislabel that, and that can get us into trouble. On the healingguidance.org website, they've got a little blurb that says, we actually constantly alter our memories every time we access them. So isn't that a fascinating thing? That the process of retrieving the memories strengthens the connections that led to it that particular time. And those can add to the picture that we think we have of what's going on. So that we have then normal memory. We have memory that comes from a cataclysmic event that affects us, but we're also emotional at the time, so what we record, we may interpret differently or record it differently. So we may have a traumatic experience or event or an attack that we're dealing with, or a disaster like a flood or a fire that we have post-traumatic stress syndrome from. Those kinds of memories get anchored in with the emotion. And then we have intergenerational trauma. This is something that's relatively new in terms of people understanding, for example, that children and grandchildren, and maybe great-grandchildren now, of Holocaust survivors have psychological elements that relate to those experiences of trauma that they did not personally experience. And whether it's something that is epigenetically encoded or is adopted into the system because of the environment they grow up in and the stories they hear, I think they're not positive yet, but it appears that they are epigenetically encoded in the DNA, because of course the parents who experienced it then produce these children, so their DNA has sometimes been actually altered by the experience of the trauma that they went through. So when we look at Native American people and what happened or indigenous people in the various countries in the world where Europeans came in and decided they were savages, enslaved peoples, even my own family from Ireland that went through the Great Hunger, that there are vestiges that carry on in the generations that follow that are related to the oppression or the abuse or the trauma. You with me so far? Okay, so all of this stuff, now Ernest Holmes says, our founder Ernest Holmes says, the soul, being the seat of memory, already contains a record of everything that's ever happened to us. These memories as a whole constitute the subjective tendency of the individual's life. This tendency, this is important, this tendency can be changed through constant effort and a determined persistency of purpose. So if we understand that a particular experience that happened to us is carried forward in our beliefs and our attitudes and our responses to life in a way that is bringing us unpleasant or negative results, and we're repeating things that we don't want to be repeating, we do have recourse to make changes in that. It may take time, it may take persistence and work, but it can be done. You know, we probably all heard stories about brain surgeries in which the patient is awake, and when the physician stimulates a certain part of the brain, somebody will have a vivid memory of something. Or they'll suddenly smell freshly baked bread. Or they'll suddenly hear a song their mother always sang to them when they were children. And it's just the stimulation of a particular part of the brain. I don't even know if it's located in a singular region. I think that memory is encoded all over the place in the brain. So this can be activated at any time. And the problem then becomes, you know, how are we going to work to nurture an actually healthy memory that is no longer causing us pain and suffering, and isn't causing us to be reactive to the world in a negative way that's causing us problems or continually seeding old negative beliefs that we're acting upon in a way that are causing us problems or difficulty. Is this making sense, what I'm saying? It's not easy to make these changes. They're not things that we necessarily can do alone. So the first thing in nurturing a memory or healing so that our memories are more healthy is to use mentors. These may be our practitioners who work with us in prayer. They may be therapists. They may be doctors and nurses. They may include prescriptions and therapy. They may include physical therapy or occupational therapy or some other kind of physical interaction. We may engage in yoga or Tai Chi or Aikido or some other kind of moving meditation to help us recenter in the body and calm down. These are all things that are available to us. And also, I think that when we carry something like that, that is causing us pain and difficulty and paralysis in our lives, that we sometimes need to find the avenue to release it. Now, I've been talking all month long about how the body is gifted to us as a loving servant. Its design is intended to store and encode in our brain's geography what is important to us and to filter out what isn't important to us. But when something has that kind of an impact on us, it gets encoded in there as important, whether we meant for it to consciously or not. And so the body is serving us when we have a flashback, when we have a physical reaction of fear or mistrustfulness that we can't seem to make any sense of, that the body is letting us know something needs releasing. Something needs to be attended to. It's not that we have to be enslaved to that for the rest of our lives. The body is lovingly bringing it to our attention and saying, this is important to deal with. This is important to grieve through, to get angry about, to do a releasing ritual, maybe all of these things, to spend a lot of time in prayer and meditation and weeping, whatever it might be. And it might be a whole combination and collection of things that are necessary. But the body will bring that up to our awareness until it is completed, until it's released somehow, until we can think of it without going into that negative body reaction or a negative emotional reaction to whatever it was that we're remembering. So the releasing process is very important because our body is responding in an involuntary manner to that memory or thought, but in that way letting us know that something needs to be done. I had a conversation last week with a young man who is really someone who is so full of light and love and tenderness, but is paralyzed right now, not literally physically paralyzed, but in his life, emotionally and relationally paralyzed because his older brother died traumatically about a year ago, and his pop just died in the last few months. And he has been immersed in such deep grieving that he's stuck because he's not actually processing the grieving. And so he's entered into this place of depression that he can't seem to get out of. Talking about it is painful. Thinking about it is painful. And unfortunately, the truth of it is, really, for most of us, the only way out is through. One of the downsides of trying to go through a process like that is that we mistakenly think we are somehow abandoning the person that we loved so much if we're not actively in this deep grief. Are you with me here? Yeah. So we can carry that grieving with us in various forms, and it will dampen down all our other emotional connections and relationships in that stuck sadness that we're in. until we have a mentor, until we have a process for releasing. And then once we begin to find our pathway through that, and the same thing happens with physical injury. The amount of work that's involved in trying to recover from certain kinds of physical injuries can be painful. Anybody ever worked with a physical therapist? Were they gentle? No. I think that they're, this is tongue-in-cheek. I think that they're well-meaning people who were reincarnated from torturing individuals, and they now have found a way to torture productively, and to be good about it and help people feel better. That's totally not true. I just made it up. So the process, though, is painful. Coming through whatever the injury is to the psyche, to the body, to the emotions, it can be painful to go through it. And there's something in the releasing process that can eventually begin to start to feel hopeful or to feel better. And then, of course, the danger is that we may then think, oh gosh, I haven't thought about him or her all day today. What's wrong with me? I'm stopping caring about that person. When I was an acting student at the American Conservatory Theater in San Francisco, I was going through a lot of self-doubt and depression, and I contacted a professional actor in Seattle who had been a mentor of mine, and I just sort of spilled my guts. And he sent me a note back and he said, read Krishnamurti. I didn't have any idea who Krishnamurti was. So I went and I looked for Krishnamurti, this Indian, teacher, and I got a record, because this is a while back. I got a record that was a recording of him from the library in San Francisco, and I got some of his books, and his key message was about non-attachment. And I just could not figure out how to care and be non-attached. It just didn't make sense to me. From my point of view, being non-attached meant not caring. I didn't get it, that it was possible to care and not be attached to the outcome of something. Does that make sense? Anybody ever have that experience at all? Where you mix that up. So I took it all back. I let it all go. I forgot about it. It was years before I came back to the teaching about non-attachment and what that actually meant. And I thought, that would have really helped me at the time if I'd understood what it was he was trying to encourage me to do at that point, to let it go. So we need practices that support us, practices that we can relate to and understand, so that we can be willing to perform them over time, to persist, to be committed to that, even in the midst of the difficulty. And that's why it's helpful to have mentors, because they can encourage us when we want to quit, when we don't want to meditate again, we don't want to pray anymore, we don't want to go to physical therapy, we don't want to have any more conversations about whatever it was. And so they can help us then develop strategies. And one of the practices, I was reading, this is from Maxwell Maltz's book, Psychocybernetics, from back in the 60s, I think. He was a plastic surgeon, actually. But he told a story about a fellow who he had read some things by Henry James and various, or William James, not Henry James, about psychology and about our attitudes and how they affect us and our life unfolding. And he decided, based on nothing really, he decided he would take the next 6 months, and if anything came up to him in memory, he would shift it to happy memories. He would think about things positively. He would consider possibilities rather than obstacles. And he would practice that for 6 months and just see if anything happened, because he thought it was bunkum, really. And his life changed so dramatically in that 6 months. He said the only thing he wished is that he'd started trying it out sooner. Because he said, everything I wanted to write a book about got done. People collaborated with me who formerly would not have had anything to do with me because I was so negative and difficult to be around. And I became lighter and happier, and my life became more joyful and easy. So this is what our founder, Ernest Holmes, was trying to teach us, that it doesn't matter what faith we belong to or none. It doesn't matter what our particular spiritual practices are, but if we can begin to incorporate with our spiritual practices and our religion a way of looking at the world as a manifestation of God's presence and looking for the good in things and people and letting go of that which is negative that we don't understand and forgiving ourselves and other people for our own shortcomings and short-sightedness, that we would have happier, more successful, more productive lives. And to that end, he taught a particular form of prayer. He taught that not just because he thought everybody would then come and follow him. He taught that because once he developed it and understood what went into the development of it, he taught it to people feeling that if they prayed in this way, no matter what their faith was, it was going to deepen their faith and cause them to feel more grounded, happier, more present in the life they were living and creating. And so this is what he was teaching people to do. And then, unbeknownst to him, some of them decided that was church. And the next thing he knew, he was in the middle of a church creation, which wasn't his intention in the first place. Cormac McCarthy said in his book, All the Pretty Horses, scars have the strange power to remind us that our past is real. Scars remind us that things really happened. We didn't make them up, they weren't our imagination. Our emotional scars are the same way. They're helpful to us to remind us that something happened, but not to let that something run our lives. If we've been victimized in our lives, and everybody has at one time or another in some manner, but it's different to say you're a victim than to say I was victimized. Those are two different things. A victim has no choice. Bless you. Somebody who's been victimized then gets to decide, okay, so what happens now? What do I do with this? What do I do with this experience internally and or in the world? Jose Andres, who's a Spanish chef, said, I realized very early the power of food to evoke memory, to bring people together, to transport you to other places, and I wanted to be a part of that. That's how he ended up becoming a chef, to create memories for people, not only to take them back to previous memories in their lives, but to create new memories for them. Marcel Proust said, remembrance of things past is not necessarily the remembrance of things as they were. And that, I think, is important for us to remember. Yeah, that's funny to say it that way. I was looking at the Bible yesterday to see what it says about memory, because I couldn't think of any quotes that specifically had to do with memory, but what revealed itself to me so humorously was almost everything that happens in the Jewish tradition, people are told, do this as a memorial for this. Teach your children so that they will remember. It's all about tradition and remembering. And when the Israelites are praying for things, they often remind God of something that happened or something you did. Please do this for us the way you did for so-and-so. Remember when that happened? And there's a story of Noah and the flood where it says God placed the rainbow in the sky to remind himself, herself, itself, never to flood the earth again. Maybe it's time for some more rainbows because we're getting a lot of floods in the world again now. But nevertheless, the idea of the importance of memorializing certain things is encoded in that spiritual text. So memory is just so important for us as evolving beings. When we come into the world, I guess we make an agreement not to remember whatever we learned as a soul before we came here. But I have the hope and belief that when we leave our physical forms, we'll take not only the learning from this life, but whatever we had learned wherever we were before, and we'll put that all together as a soul that has advanced a little further in our evolution, in our unfoldment, because that's what we're here for. And in essence, the body is a tool to assist us with that, to assist us to learn, to discover value, to choose what matters, and to move through the places where there are injuries to bring healing and releasing. So that's kind of what we're in the process of doing, of creating that healthy memory. And in order to do that, sometimes we have to look at memories that are difficult for us to look at and give them a new meaning. Now that sounds odd, but when something happens, consciously or unconsciously, we make a decision about what that means, that happened. It was so-and-so's fault, or how could I be so dumb, or, I was always told not to do that, but I had to go and do it for myself. I couldn't learn without experiencing it all, whatever. Or God's punishing me. I was never one of God's favorites, or God doesn't like me, or God doesn't listen to me, or God doesn't exist because these things have happened to me. So we unconsciously assign meaning to things. If a woman has been abused as a child and then all her early relationships seem to follow that pattern, it would not be unusual for her to decide that men are a problem, or that relationships are a problem, or that isn't something that works for her. And same thing for men, or whatever gender non-specific on the continuum of gender might be. Whatever we've experienced earlier, we assign meaning to. We may blame ourselves for it and assign a particular meaning. Well, I was really embarrassed when this happened because I'm not good at that. That's the decision. I'm not good at that. Rather than, see, that's a big blanket thing we put over the top of ourselves. Instead of saying, boy, that day, I really wasn't at my best with that. Do you see how that takes the I'm a victim and puts it into a smaller box over here, like, well, this was a bad day in terms of that thing, but it doesn't mean I'll never try it again. So when we assign meaning to something, it's helpful if we assign a limited meaning to it, or we assign an empowering meaning to it. And so sometimes that's where the mentor comes in helping us look at something and evaluate if we have given it a meaning that is an exaggeration or not accurate at all. I have a friend who's quite a brilliant woman who grew up thinking she was stupid. She always thought she was stupid. And then several things happened in a row once she started studying for the ministry that revealed to her that she wasn't stupid at all. And it was such a shock to her to discover that. Other people knew she wasn't stupid, but she didn't know it, not in here. So when we examine those blanket generalizations that we've made about ourselves or life or other people, that's a place where there's an inroad into something new, some new possibility or healing that could take place. You see, I think all of our experiences, both the positive and negative, are there for our soul's unfoldment. Then how we choose to go forward with those depends upon how effective that particular event was to help that soul unfold. When we decide to choose a new meaning for something, we're going to reassign a meaning, then anytime we think of that, we have to consciously remember to reassign that meaning so we don't jump back into the old groove again and get back to thinking about ourselves or the situation the way we used to. No, this is what this means in my life, and now I choose to live from that place rather than from this stuck place over here. And so one of the things we can do is take ourselves back through that experience and see how that soul can open up from that into something greater, something that serves our larger life, and reclaim that gift to take it forward in our lives so that our memory can become a sacred path to integrating our healings and becoming more. Quite a few years ago now, I will get there, but I'm not there yet. Quite a few years ago now, in Santa Rosa, Edwin Gaines, who is the prosperity teacher for Unity Centers of Truth, was speaking at a workshop for us. And she said to us, When I was a little child, a very little child, I was sexually abused from the time I was 6 months old until I was 6 years old. Now she said, now I can let that affect my entire life in that I was victimized, that now I'm a victim of this, and this trauma means I have this problem and this problem and this problem and that problem. That's one way to assign meaning to that as a victim. She said, I choose a different meaning for what happened to me. She said, you see, I am a woman of power. And in order for me to be a woman of power, I chose a particularly harsh initiation into power so that I would know at a visceral level what the abuse of power is, so that I would be safe to be a woman holding that kind of power. That's how I choose to interpret it, as a shamanic initiation into being a woman of power. Now, do you see the difference in those two things? From I'm a victim, so I have all these psychological problems because I can't do anything about it because I was abused when I was a child. There's one. And the other one saying, yes, this happened because I was around people who were victimizers, people who used their power inappropriately, and I know what that feels like. So I pledge to be a person of power and to use my power compassionately and wisely, because I know how important that is. And then she said, you know, in my work with all the different people I've talked to who've experienced something like this, here's what I've discovered, she said. The child with the greatest light is sought out by the adult with the greatest darkness in order to get healed. And the child, as children do, believe that that light they carry is omnipotent and that it is going to somehow heal that person. And when it doesn't, the child doubts the light. Now that to me was profound in the way that she said it. And what it says to me is that individuals who are experiencing that as adults and feel like they have been victims and they're stuck in that, actually one of the pathways into the healing is the recognition of what a powerful being of light they are underneath that trauma, because that's what drew that experience maybe to them in the first place, and their soul now is ready to burst that light back forth again. They may have to do some work to get there, but the light never goes out, never. So the fact that any of us ever doubt our light for any reason is a misinterpretation of meaning. And what we want to do is question misinterpretation of meaning and consider the light that is within all of us and find the therapeutic means to move ourselves toward remembering and reclaiming our own awareness of our light. And not only that, but being an inspiration of light for others who have that path to walk and maybe a little way behind us. Does that make sense? So let's take this in now into prayer and ground it and anchor it there. As we move into the silence now together, take a breath. I invite you to put your hands over your heart and to breathe as if you are breathing right through your heart. And just imagine that in your heart there is a brilliant flame of light, and that light is growing brighter and brighter and brighter until your whole being is so filled with this light. Every cell is shining, and the light is actually emanating forth into your aura, brightening it up, extending it outward. And it is a vibration of love, pure, unadulterated love. This is the essence we're made from. This is the presence, the mystery, the divine, the spirit, God, great spirit, the infinite, infinite intelligence, whatever you want to call it, that presence vibrates as light and love from us out into the world and back to us from the world. We allow our light and love now to fill this room. Just extend it in your imagination in every direction, above you, below you, all around you. Let it move to the ceiling, through the floor to the earth, out to the walls. Let it permeate the walls and go out into the soccer field where the children are, across into the restaurant, out in front on the sidewalk. That there is light and love flowing out from this place, and that as it does so, it is magnified because there are many of us doing this at the same time. And it is sending out waves of healing, resonant energy. See, we don't have to be completely healed in everything in order to send this out and be this. And in order to allow that to call forth from the universe around us, all that love and light flowing back right to us, filling, replenishing, purifying, uplifting. We allow ourselves to accept a kernel of this as the truth of who we are right now, without any change whatsoever, that we are made in the image and likeness of the infinite one, and that we are whole, complete, and perfect, just as we are. And so with gratitude, we remember this for ourselves and each other. We send this word out into the creative law, which acts upon it automatically. It has no choice but to say yes. We let it go into the law. We let it go into the heart of God, where it has always been the truth of us, the real truth. We let it go and we just let it be. Take a breath, and together we say, and so it is. Yes. Take a few more breaths. And I invite you to stand and say the morning affirmation with me now. Everything, say it with me, everything that has ever happened to me is recorded in my body. I honor all of my past experiences. I can influence how my past affects me. I make loving choices and welcome support and guidance to do so now. And so it is. Yes, wonderful. You may be seated. I'm going to invite the ushers to come forward now as we move into our sacred offering time. Now, I want to say as we begin this process, if this is your first Sunday here with us, your presence with us is your gift. For all those who brought tithes and offerings this morning, we're going to bless those in just a minute. And we're also blessing everything we have given out this past week to anybody. So if you blessed your bills as you sent payments out to PG&E, or, we're blessing all of that right now, and everything that has come into Golden Gate this week. If you want to text to donate this morning, you can do that at this number that is up on the screen, and you can also donate through Venmo or PayPal at Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living, or from our website. There's a million ways to give, always. So just know that's all available. And now let's take a moment and hold your offering near your heart, or if you're giving it with a loved one, hold it in your hands together. And we will say this together. This gift I give is God in action. I now send it forth to bless and to prosper. I know that everywhere it goes, it is creating a world living in love, one heart and one thought at a time. And so it is. Please go ahead. Here's Christy.
So we know that things get recorded in the body, and sometimes we have to record something new, and that's what I was thinking when I wrote this song called It's Time. Said, tell me what it is you're waiting for. Who holds the key to your freedom's door? She asked, what is it you mean you need more time? Don't you think it's time? Time to be what you seek now. Time to love who you are. Time to want what you have. Yeah, loving life right where you are. It's time. Time to give yourself the benefit of the doubt. Time to live life from the inside out. Time to see things right, not waste time trying to set them right. Oh, 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 it's time. Time. It's time to let old tapes go. It's time to record something new. It's time to believe you can do all those things you want to do. Dismiss critical voice inside of your head. Let the ghost be free from the closet and finally dead. Don't you think it's time to embrace what you once called mistakes? Take chances, try again. Oh, it's time. Don't you think it's your time? Time to give yourself the benefit of the doubt. Time to live life from the inside out. Time to see things right, not waste time trying to set them right. Oh, oh, it's time. So pay attention to what your intention is. Beware of where your thought lives. Speak your word, I know the power it has. We all cause what we lack or have. Yeah, we help create what we lack or have. It's time, don't you think it's your time? Time to give yourself the benefit of the doubt. Time to live life from the inside out. Time to see things right, not waste time trying to set them right. Oh, oh, it's time. 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 Your time. Our time.
So now all of us here on behalf of Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living accept this offering with great gratitude. We use it mindfully, recognizing that as it goes out from Golden Gate to whatever it goes to, it carries the blessing from this place with it. And our intention is that everywhere it goes, it brings healing and sets people free. And so it is. So, if you are here for the first time this morning, I want to let you know that this table back here behind that section has welcome packets for you. They say welcome right on them so you can tell. But inside, there's a blue welcome card, and we'd love to invite you to fill that out and turn it in back there. If you do that, we're going to give you a little book as our thank you for being here today and our invitation for you to come back. And also, it's a great tool. It's called Nourishing Thoughts. Amanda's holding it up back there. It's a great tool to carry with you when you need to get back to center. You can just open it up anywhere to a little affirmation that helps you regain the truth and step away from those vast generalizations that get you into trouble. So we would love to have you do that and then come back and be with us often in the future. I want to thank everybody that is here this morning that helped us get everything set up. And it turned out Suzanne's the only one at the table here this morning. I think our other practitioner for this morning couldn't get a replacement. So Suzanne will be available for prayer following the service. You might have to wait until she's done with somebody before you, but she'll be there and available for you. And the rest of our practitioners are not on duty today, but they are here, and they'll be joining me in prayer in just a moment. So let's thank everybody that's involved in making this morning good for us. And I want to thank Leslie Giannetti for this beautiful altar this morning. She's another one of our prayer practitioners. Yes, thank you, Leslie. Come up and look at all the beautiful stuff. Now, also, I want to remind you of our heart-to-heart community care team. If you need a ride to the doctor, if you're going to be recovering from something and you could use some meals or encouraging phone calls, that's what happened. It went right on. Isn't that interesting? Okay. Oh, I know why I did that. That's my fault. They're available. If you go onto our website, the tab that says resources, you can find Heart to Heart, and you can contact them and let them know if you or somebody you know needs that kind of support, and they'll get back to you and find out what's needed and where and take care of that. And they do that all confidentially. It's free. They're volunteers from the congregation, and they look out for us that way. Also, we are looking at our next volunteer opportunity with the food bank, which is going to be November 8th. It's always on Tuesday, usually the first or second Tuesday of the month. And they're there from noon to 2 at the San Francisco Marin Food Bank, which has a warehouse in Marin, in San Rafael. And our group meets there at noon, and we give them the names in advance of who is coming. So the food bank knows how many people to count on, so it knows how much work they can get done that day. So if you want to participate, there are a limited number of people they allow to come. I think we get 9 or something. Is that right, Ellen? Yeah. So actually, we can take as many as want to sign up, but 9 is about the maximum we've had. If something happens, you sign up, you find out you can't do it later, please contact Ellen and let her know. So if somebody's waiting to do it, she can invite them to participate and also alert the food bank that we have one less than we thought we might have, for example. So Ellen is right here in the pinky kind of sweater, and talk to Ellen or contact her this way if you would like to be on that list. She needs to know by the 1st. So you got about a week to decide. Also, our fellows are having a gathering, a men's group gathering, and this is going to be at their usual location in Lucas Valley. You can talk to Steve Einhaus, who, I don't see Steve this morning, but his contact info is up here on the screen, and as well as the directions for where you're going. You can take a screenshot of that, guys, if you don't know where it is or you haven't been there. And the only thing that Steve said is bring a poem to share, and that's going to be from 3 to 5 in Lucas Valley. So that's coming up. And then the very next day, Sunday, November 13th, the guys are doing another brunch. Yay! And this is like a bonus brunch because we just had one not too long ago, and usually they do them quarterly. But they decided they wanted to do another one right away. So they're doing eggplant parmesan and I don't know what all else. But that's going to be Sunday, November 13th, following the Sunday celebration right here. It's only $10, and they'll serve us and clean it up and everything. They're just fabulous. So thank you, guys. We're looking forward to that. Also, the climate action tip for this week is LED bulbs. Do you know they last about 25 times longer than a regular incandescent bulb, and at the same time they use 25 to 80% less energy. So you save money, you save time because you're not going shopping for them all the time. Money and energy and all that good stuff. So one simple thing makes that difference. And I also, we had a meeting a few weeks ago where we invited members of the congregation to share about what they'd been doing and how that had impacted their lives. So I want to invite Stanley Stefancic to come up, Reverend Stan, and tell us about what he and Mariana did that has been helpful for them. Come on up here, Stan.
Good morning.
Good morning.
In Northern California, we have an abundance
have to hold that up.
of sunshine. A great way to take advantage of this gift is to reduce pollution, is to install solar panels on our homes and to avoid blackouts from fires. In 2015, we had solar panels installed in our house. It cost $29,000. I don't remember the exact amount, but we got a tax credit of about $6,500. So it basically cost us $23,500. Up to 2015, we were paying PG&E over $4,000 a year for gas and electricity. In 2016, our annual payment was $870.
Wow.
In 2017, it was $956, and in 2018, $854. Now, the reason in 2017 it was $956, that was the year we leased an all-electric car. We had it for 3 years. We paid virtually nothing to a gas station or to an oil company. We didn't have to have maintenance. We didn't have to have spark plugs cleaned. We didn't have to change the oil, do any of the ordinary maintenance stuff you have to do with a gasoline engine. And we produced our own electricity to charge the car every night.
Wow.
The panels charge a battery, but the battery has limited capacity. And you have to decide which electric utilities you want to be connected to the battery in case there's a power outage. We decided to connect our furnace and refrigerators to the battery when a power outage occurred. In 2020, we had a separate battery installed. It cost about $20,000, and we got a tax rebate of $5,200. We added an extra battery because I have to do dialysis every night. I have kidney disease, and it takes 8.5 hours every night, and I cannot afford to lose power. For us, alternative energy is a must. Our time and savings from PG&E offset the cost of the panels, and the battery provides safety during planet heating and fires that disrupt power supply. It's expensive, but over time it pays off and you'll actually make money. And the nice thing is you won't be supporting any oil companies.
Thanks, Tim. All right. So now I would like to invite the practitioners to surround the room for our closing. Everybody in a white stole is one of our licensed practitioners. Many of these people have been practitioners more than 20 years. Reverend Sarah, of course, is a practitioner, and so is Reverend M. Louise, even though Sarah doesn't have a stole on, and neither do I. We're all practitioners first, and then we become ministers. So if you have a request for prayer, you can put a written request for prayer into this prayer box on the practitioner table on Sunday. You can fill one out online, once again under the resources tab, prayer requests. You can call the office and make a prayer request, and especially on Sunday morning, you can get a prayer from the practitioner who's on duty. These practitioners also, many of them, see private clients. So you can make appointments for a longer session if you're ready for a mentor to assist you to move through something in your life. So I encourage that as well. And you can get a list of active practitioners, I think, over there on the table. Yeah. So talk to Suzanne this morning if you would like prayer today. And right now we're going to join together in consciousness. We enter into this chamber of prayer together. and so it is. All right. So I'm going to invite you to stand and join me in the benediction and the closing song. Thank you, Suzanne. So we speak this benediction together. I now walk, so that whoever walks beside me dwells in the presence of God, and whoever places a hand in mine is lifted, and whoever thinks of me is illumined with God consciousness, for spirit and all people and I are one eternally. And so it is. And here's our closing, and it repeats, so it's not too hard to get a hold of. Here it goes.
Thank you again for allowing me to be part of this morning's service. And remember, as we go our separate ways now, that you are the answer to someone's prayer today. You are the answer to somebody's prayer. You are the answer to somebody's prayer. You are the answer to somebody's prayer. Let it go, let it flow, let it show. Let it go, let it flow, let it show. You are a beacon in somebody's night. You are the beacon in somebody's night. You are the beacon in somebody's night. Let it go, let it flow, let it show. Let it go, let it flow, let it show. You are the love in somebody's day. You are the love in somebody's day. You are the love in somebody's day. Let it go, let it flow, let it show. Let it go, let it flow, let it show. You are the answer to somebody's prayer. You are the answer to somebody's prayer. You are the answer to somebody's prayer. Let it go, let it flow, let it show. Let it go, let it flow, let it show. Let it go, let it flow, let it show. Let it go, let it flow, let it show. Thank you so much. See you soon.